Bluegrass Jam Along is proud to be sponsored by Collins Guitars and Mandolins, each and every one built from the sound up in Austin, Texas. This episode is also brought to you by Peghead Nation, the home of roots music instruction. If you want to improve your playing, join me and thousands of other pickers getting better every day at pegheadnation.com. Hi, this is Matt, and you're listening to Bluegrass Jam Along, the podcast for anyone and everyone who loves bluegrass. Hey everybody, welcome back to another week of Bluegrass Jam Along. This is your Bluegrass Briefing for Monday, October the 7th, 2024, and it's first for a couple of weeks. I missed last week because I was in the air on the way back from IBMA, but I had a great time while I was there, all sorts of cool stuff. A few highlights included watching Sierra Hull with their band on the Red Hat stage. That was incredible. Really enjoyed seeing New Dangerfield. That was really cool as well. And just catching up with people I've interviewed, talking to new friends, meeting old friends, just being around people actually was astonishing. And it was an amazing week. So that was fantastic. A couple of episodes came out of it. There's one that I put out last week, which was sort of a roundup, speaking to various people, including Ken White, the CEO of IBMA, and Christopher Howard Williams, who runs the international stuff there. Also talked to Brenna McMillan about her new record. I talked to Artist Works, Collins Guitars. Really interesting roundup episode. And there's another one coming out on Wednesday this week, which is a conversation that was going to be part of that and just developed into a slightly longer thing. So I'm going to put it out as a separate episode. And that was me catching up with Christina Gaddy and Lillian Werbin from the Banjo Gathering. Christina's been on the podcast before for her book Well of Souls, and Lillian, I'm sure a lot of you know through Elderly Instruments. But they have been curating a sort of strand of the business conference at IBMA called Roots Revival, a Black String Band Symposium. And I caught up with them just to sort of chat about how that came about, some of the reasons for it, what they hoped to come out of it, how it had been. And that was really cool. So listen out for that on Wednesday. It's a really interesting episode. I'm really sort of pleased I got to talk to them. Very cool. And that is probably it for podcast news for now. There's lots of stuff coming up. I've got some very cool interviews and some bits and pieces lined up. Lots of good conversations at IBMA that have, just need to now schedule the interviews, and there's lots of stuff that I think is going to see us through the rest of this year in style. Looking forward to that. But let's crack on with news and announcements in the section we call Church Street News. And first up is just to remind you all about the various resources out there if you want to support people who've suffered through Hurricane Helene. It was obviously just appalling in the areas that hit badly. So there's some links in my Instagram bio. I'll put some links in the show notes in case you want to go and donate, help out in any way you can. There's all sorts of places, all your favourite musicians and people are putting resources online for places you can go and help. So go and do that. The news cycle moves on, but things like this take a lot of cleanup and a lot of time to repair and recover from, and people are still suffering really badly. So anything you can do to help would be amazing. Other news in the world of bluegrass and string band music. Jake Workman announced this week that he is bringing to an end his time with Ricky Skaggs and Kentucky Thunder. I'm sure lots of you have seen Jake play with Ricky. Jake's obviously an incredible guitarist and has had a real stint in that band and is moving on to new things. He's got a few more shows towards the end of the year that he's going to be still with the band for, so go out and see them if you get a chance while he's still there. But Jake, good luck with whatever's next, and congratulations on a fabulous run with Kentucky Thunder. John Hartford Marathon, really interesting thing I spotted. Brittany and Natalie Haas are going to play their way straight through all 176 fiddle tunes from Hartford's Mammoth Collection book by chapter, and each chapter will call up a different configuration of musicians with a few full-on jams thrown into the mix. It is happening tonight as this episode goes out, which is October the 7th. And you can either attend in person at Nashville's American Legion Post 82 or via live stream on the Hartford YouTube channel and the Violin Shop Facebook page. That sounds both nuts and exciting and fun and interesting. John Hartford tunes in themselves are fun, but to watch Brittany and Natalie and a host of people play through all 176 is going to be extraordinary. So good luck with that, Brittany and Natalie. Sounds a lot of fun. Go and check it out. I'll stick links in the show notes if you're interested in that one. Also, Sarah Jarosz's Blue Heron Suite, which is a song cycle that came out of a Fresh Grass commission, came out a couple of years ago. Beautiful, beautiful record. I love it to pieces. It was a limited edition physical release when it came out, and Sarah has announced that it's going to be coming out again on CD and vinyl via some indie retailers and Amazon and places like that, which is great for those of us who missed it first time round. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I'll remind you maybe nearer the time as well. And the final thing, which feels like it's been coming for a while, is Punch Brothers Energy Curfew Music Hour, which is a sort of music and variety show which has been recorded for Audible. It's coming out on the 10th, which is this week. So that is going to be available on Audible. That's about as much as I know at this point, but I'm very much looking forward to listening to that. I'm a huge Punch Brothers fan, as I'm sure you all know. So that is the news and announcements for this week. Jake Workman and Kentucky Thunder, the Blue Heron re-release, the Hartford Marathon, and Energy Curfew Music Hour. Let's move on to The Grass is New. And new music this week. First up, George Jackson, who was on the podcast a while ago talking to fiddle tune marathons. Him and Tristan Scroggins recorded 100 old-time tunes in a day. George has got a new record with Brad Kolodner, which is called Shady Lane, and the first single, Bitter Creek, from that is out now, and I was listening to that the other day and enjoying it very much indeed. Really cool stuff. Looking forward to hearing the full record. I will stick the single in the playlist. Go and have a listen to that. Thomas Cassell also has a new album out called The Never Ending Years, which I've just started listening to and I'm loving. Some sounds great for starters, but yeah, some cool stuff on there and some cool people. I will bring you a bit more info about that in time. But Thomas Cassell's The Never Ending Years. I saw Thomas play at IBMA last year and just thoroughly enjoyed it. So yeah, looking forward to checking that one out as well. And Billy String's album Highway Prayers, the full thing is out now. So the singles have been out and I've mentioned that a couple of times, but the full album is out now. So do go and check all of that out. I will stick some stuff in the playlist, which is called The Grass is Mostly New 2024. And if you don't know about that, every week when I mention stuff on the podcast, I stick it in a playlist. And we just build something up over the course of a year of new releases. I know what it's like trying to keep on top of new music sometimes, and so I sort of started doing it for myself really. But it's nice to be able to share it, and it's there if you want to go and hear some of the best new bluegrass and string band music that is out right now. And on it this week will be George Jackson and Brad Kolodner. There will be Thomas Cassell and something from the Billy Strings album as well. That is it. Let us move on to the stuff that I found on social media, which we call Scroll On Buddy. And we might as well call it Scroll On Baby this week, because there's a couple of bits of baby-related news that I've spotted. And one of them was that Jake Eddy's going to be a dad. Congratulations, Jake. That is very exciting news. And the other one is that Billy Strings is a dad. Congratulations, Billy. That's also fantastic news. And there was a bit of a sort of storm is the right word for this on social media, but Billy got the news that his wife's waters had broken and left his own festival to fly home to be with her for the birth. And lots of people were incredibly supportive of that, and some people weren't so supportive. How could Billy leave his own festival? Blah, blah, blah. I think for starters, if you're in the position where you can fly home to be there for the birth of your child, that's okay. I understand that, people, maybe you've saved up all year to go to the festival. Lots of people, think that they are owed what they've paid for, and I totally get that. But I applaud not only Billy doing what felt right to him, but also the extraordinary kind of sort of composure and decency with which he conducted the follow-up to that. And they're offering people refunds for the festival. He got an amazing group of musicians to stand in for him on his slot that he would have been there. I just think he's handled the whole thing very well. And I think there's something about the way people are addressing like work-life balance, for want of a better phrase, and emotional health and all of those things within music is really important. People talk about it on their records. People talk about it like on their social media feeds. Becky Buller's wonderful keynote at IBMA this year was very much about that. It's always been a tricky thing, balancing being a public figure and an actual human being in any form of media and creative worlds, and hats off to people who do it. And it used to be harder to do, and with communication and tech and transport and all the things we've got now, it is maybe easier to maintain a family and be on the road, but it is still really difficult. And all of those people who kind of deal with that on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual basis, you know, I think it's good that people talk about this stuff, and I think that it's good that we have conversations about it. And I think just because we like people's music, they don't owe us anything else. They still have their lives to live, and that is really important. And if we want them to keep giving us their music, then we have to expect them to live their lives. And yeah, that's that really. I'm not really sure what I'm saying entirely, but I think it's positive that we have a conversation about these things, and I think it's positive that people talk about balancing their private life, their family life with their public life. And yeah, and we will leave that there. Final bit is for me to talk about what's been in my ears this week. Two things. I've been listening to a CD by a band called The Original Five, who I met at IBMA and hung out with, called the Palan Sessions. I'm enjoying that very much. I'll stick something in the playlist. Go and have a listen. Last year I came back with a whole bucket load of CDs, and this year I came back with one, which was probably good for my back, carrying them all home. But yeah, so I got that and I've been really enjoying it. It's really cool. Have a listen. And the other thing in my ears this week, Sierra Ferrell has a track on her last album called I Could Drive You Crazy, which she played, opened her set with at the Red Hat at IBMA, and has been stuck in my head on a loop ever since, in an entirely positive way. And it has, in fact, almost driven me crazy. But it's a great song, and I love it. So I'm going to stick that in the playlist as well. You can all go and have a listen if you don't know it. I'm sure lots of you do already. But that is it for this week. The usual stuff applies. All the episodes, chord sheets, Jam Along tracks on the website, bluegrassjamalong.com. There's a list of interviews. You can sort everything by category. Lots of ways to find what you're looking for. And with all the tunes, you can slow them down without affecting the pitch using the player on the website. If you're listening on Spotify, you will be missing the play-along tracks because they're not on Spotify. They are everywhere else. But that is it. If you get a chance to review and rate the podcast wherever you get your podcasts, that would be really, really good. And if you would like to listen without adverts and support the podcast, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts for a small amount of money. That is it. Check back in on Wednesday to hear the Roots Revival interview that I did at IBMA with Christina Gaddy and Lillian Werbin. In the meantime, have a fantastic week. I'll see you next time, and happy picking. Bluegrass Jam Along is proud to be sponsored by Collings Guitars and Mandolins, making some of the finest guitars and mandolins in the world since the 1970s. Visit collingsguitars.com and find out why.